It'll give you an opportunity to go back and do some refreshing. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel. So, welcome everybody. My name is Christy Chandler. I'm the Senior Vice President for Admissions and Communications at Chapel Haven. And I'm so pleased to have Sunny Richards, longtime Chapel Havener extraordinaire, tonight for our second monthly meetup session. So, last month, if you missed it, we had Alicia and Rico presenting on the benefits services that are available at Chapel Haven, and that actually falls under the realm of the supported living program, which Sunny's going to be talking us through tonight. So we also have Eric Rambush with us, who is under the SLP umbrella as well, and he's going to keep an eye on the chat and will be able to answer any questions that might come in through that are answered with a simple, typed answer. And if it's anything that would benefit from a more in-depth conversation, he'll save those at the end, and then he and Sunny and I will talk through those together with you. So, with that, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to jump right in. All right. So, I'm going to minimize some boxes so that we can all see a bit better. Okay, and then let me just let some folks in. There we go. Okay. So, the supported living program. Sunny, you want to just give us a quick little snapshot about what we're going to be talking about tonight? And then I'm going to have you share a little bit with us about your history here at Chapel Haven and how you came to be
Yeah.
involved with the supported living program.
Thank you, Christy. So it's so nice to see all of you. I'm so happy to be here. I think it's been a little bit of a while since I've met with parents on Zoom, maybe more than a year or so. Forgive my voice. I was away with small children last year, or last week, not last year, and I picked up everything that they had to offer. So I apologize for my voice. But I'm always excited to talk about supported living. And my hope this evening is that you come away from this with
Meeting
a
is
better understanding
recording.
of what the supported living program is all about, the service that we provide, who provides it, how much it costs, and why it's so important to Chapel Haven and our adults' independence in the future. We'll go over what the planning looks like and the timelines and the transition. I believe many of you on the call tonight are have sons or daughters that are transitioning from Reach to Bridge or SLP this summer. So we can take a look at those timelines and how those meetings and reports are managed. And then we'll also talk about all the additional supports that our adults receive in addition to supported living. So you probably know already that Chapel Haven offers a variety of different programs, classes, supports, therapies. So I'm hoping we can touch upon that too as well. So you have a keener understanding of all that we have to offer.
Thanks, Sunny.
Yeah.
So, Sunny, I know you have a special distinction for your longevity at Chapel Haven. I think you're up there just a little bit ahead of Tina Menchetti, our beloved director of art, as well as even some of the staff in the supported living program. So, just tell us a little bit about like how did you first come to Chapel Haven and what's it been like seeing the agency grow and change over the years?
So I think I saw Dr. Helene Torker on the, sign in. So this is probably all old news to her. But, we're fortunate at Chapel Haven that most of our management team and senior team has, 15, 20, 25, 30 years of experience at Chapel Haven. Debbie Elliott, one of our support coordinators, she's actually um, is the longest employed as a support coordinator. She's been with us for, I believe, 35 years now.
Amazing.
But myself, had a long history at Chapel Haven. As an eighth grader back in 1987, I first stopped by the campus with my mother, who was a director of the REACH program at the time, after dinner one night, and we stopped in on a young man's birthday party. His name was John, and he was celebrating his 25th birthday.
Oh,
in outreach, which was then the basement in Rossman.
Oh,
Um, and John, I mean, unfortunately, he's passed now, but um, you know, um, he was just one of a longtime community member that
yeah.
some of you may know. But as I said, my mother was involved at Chapel Haven. My father coached the our basketball team. We were the Chapel Haven Beavers back then, and we used to have an annual game against Jesby House at the Meadowlands every year. Some of you may remember that. And the way I recall it, we won every year, although I might be bending the truth a little bit there. But it is no joke that I began my career at Chapel Haven on April Fool's Day in 1993. Mike Storrs also began his career at Chapel Haven on April Fool's Day a few years later. And it is the truth that I've held 10 positions, finally arriving as the Senior Vice President of Community Programs just a few years ago now.
That's awesome. Sunny, is this a picture of Gordon holding your son?
So yes, that's Gordon Landau,
Oh,
and my son is now 23, and that's Gordon. Yeah, Gordon holding my son, and that's it. That top picture on the left, that's me on
hmm.
the left before I
I realize
turned
that.
blonde
Yes,
with
I
Jeff
love it.
Inline and David Bershaw, and David Bershaw is with
Oh,
us
I
still
see
too.
that now. Oh, I love that. I just saw David
Yeah,
this afternoon.
yeah, and then
Oh,
that's my father and Chapel Haven. When I was married, I don't know, 25 years ago, we had a few tables, for
yeah,
Chapel Haven. It was a big family. I mean, it's still a big family, but
yeah,
that we've seen that through for sure, but was back
yeah.
then as well.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that history with us, Sunny. So tell us a little bit. I mean, definitely Chapel Haven has grown a lot since then, right? We used to all be in that red brick building, just that one stop shopping spot. After I should say, moving from the Chapel Street location. And so definitely we have grown and added positions over the years. So do you want to talk a little bit about who some of the folks are that are working closely with you in the supported living program umbrella?
Yeah, so supported living and community programs you might hear as well. That includes essentially all the residential supports, whether they're provided on campus or in the community after adults transition from the REACH program. So the REACH program is like our academic program, and then once that concludes, whether they transition to a bridge program, the community in SLP, or our SAIL program, it's that post college program, transition program that encompasses supported living. But under that umbrella, I work alongside Alyssa Peretti in the rec department. So we have a very robust recreational program, as I'm sure you know. Eric Rambush. Eric has served as the director in SLP. He's with us tonight, and has recently transitioned to the director of the SAIL program. The SAIL program is a residential setting located on our campus. Currently, we serve 41 adults there in that program. And we also have newer to our services. We are offering a bridge program, we're in our third year, and that's the third year of REACH, but it's provided by staff in supported living to assist adults in the transition from REACH to the community. That's campus-based as well. And then we also have the Catch program. For years, literally, like many, many years, Christy would call up when I worked as the director in supported living. She would get calls from families who have older children that have resided maybe with or near them. And as they considered retirement, were looking for a community for their adult children, 60-year-old adult children to transition to so that they may establish their own community as we all age. And for so long, we didn't have the facilities to house adults on campus so that we may appropriately assess their needs and abilities and decide, whether they would transfer off campus or continue living on campus. Now, we have that space and we're able to offer that to families. So just in the first year, I believe we started with 6 adults in the Catch program. That's connecting adults to Chapel Haven. 6 adults, and one has already transitioned off campus to an apartment over on Blake Street. So, I'm really excited about that.
Yeah.
And then we have benefits. Yeah, that's always fun to talk about. We could talk, I think we're going to Family Weekend. We're going to take a whole hour to talk just about benefits. And Alicia Enrico, our MSW, who oversees that service. And then now we have 2 managers to assist in supported living. So once upon a time, there were, I don't know, 17 to 25 support coordinators that reported up to the director. And it was very easy for the director, me or Eric, to get lost in the weeds and get behind. We're fortunate enough to be able to add another level of management there. We're really happy that Rory and Jen are now part of the SLPT.
Yeah. And then, Sunny, do you just want to say a word about support coordinators? Because they really are the ones that are most often working directly with the adults, right?
Yeah, and I would say if you asked any parent who's worked with a support coordinator or had, supported living services in place for their son or daughter, they would probably tell you by far the support coordinator is the most important person in their life
Hmm.
because that is the person that knows what's going on in their apartment, knows whether or not their refills are done, whether or not they went to the grocery store, when they're due for an exam or blood work. We're lucky enough that our support coordinators, we've been able to give them a boost in pay, in compensation, so that we can have, professionals with bachelor's degrees and experience working in those positions. So
Yeah.
it's been great.
Thanks, Annie. Yeah, I've definitely heard many a family refer to support coordinators as like an extension of their family because they have worked so closely together, often for many years, and heard firsthand from them how valuable that is. So we won't belabor this next slide too much because Sunny did a really great job of explaining it, but I know we throw our acronyms around a lot at Chapel Haven and it can get confusing with all our different names. And for some of the families that are on here that have been around for many years, you've seen some different iterations of these. So, like many years ago, the Bridge program still lived under Reach and really was kind of like a third year of Reach. Whereas we've recently shifted, like Sunny said, in the last few years to make that more intentional switch over to services being provided through the supported living program so that it is a more intentional transition where the lines aren't so blurred, right? Like if you've been working with Reach and you keep working with Reach, and then there's just so much incidental that's baked in. And so making this transition into services being provided by the supported living program really offers a softer launch into graduate life into the community for the long term. So that was some of the thinking behind that transition. And then, as Sunny said, yes, it was a labor of love to bring the Catch program into fruition. And we've been super excited to welcome folks under the supported living program side as well as under the ASAC graduate program side. So we've had, I think we're up to about 9 individuals now between the two programs. And just if you hear us talking about SLP or you hear us talking about community members, that's just our nickname, our shorthand for folks who have graduated from typically the Reach transition program, but it could also include the ASAP program who now continue on with Chapel Haven in some form or fashion, whether it's a class here and there, the rec program, coming and hanging out on campus, meeting with a support coordinator, things like that. And then, Sunny, we did not talk yet about how the sale, well, I think you briefly referenced how sale fits under that. But do you just want to say a piece about the sale program and how it relates?
Yeah, so just, 3 years ago when I transitioned into the SVP of community programs, we made the decision then that the SAIL program fits nicely under the post reach options. As adults have aged in supported living, we have, adults who lived independently in their own apartments around the block for 20 years. And then as their needs increased, they just needed a higher level of support. So they transitioned back to sale. At the same time, there are adults who move through the REACH program. And for whatever reason, the SAIL program on campus living with access to staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's the best fit for them. Um, but all together, all encompassing, they're all, graduates of the community and considered community members. So when we look at the options after REACH, they are essentially the SAIL program, residential on campus, the Bridge program, right, as Christy just went through. And then when we say supported living, another way to think of that is just the community. Like
Mm.
supported living is essentially moving off campus in the community or off campus. Supported living is really off campus. So
Yeah.
a number of different options to offer.
Thanks, Sunny. So tell us a little bit, Sunny, about, we got your history. Tell us just a teensy bit about the Chapel Haven history and what the supported living program has grown into today.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Chapel Haven was originally housed on Chapel Street in New Haven. Um, and at 1562 Chapel Street, there was a house that's no longer there. But two staff members, a married couple, and six adults embarked on this journey and began there. Um, Sadly, the last Laura Mintz was one of our passed away a couple of years ago now, one of our original six, and the other is unfortunately, well, this is a little bit of a downer, but is not doing so well and is in a nursing home. So we're not working with any of the original six anymore, but um, we do have our oldest community member is 73 years old. He lives in the SAIL program. And we currently serve based on our last year's benchmarks. Like I don't know, I didn't count my the attendance for today, but based on my reports for benchmarks, last fiscal year, we served 112 adults, 39% of which were women. Um, and let me see here. Oh, I'm sorry, Eric, oh, thank you. Um, I couldn't read my thing. 112 adults who lived mostly in the one block perimeter of Chapel Haven. A number of years ago, I'm going to say maybe 15 or 20 years ago, maybe some of you on this call remember when DDS came by once and they're like, you guys really aren't living, among the community because we're all housed, at the towers at 200 Fountain Street. Everybody would graduate and move to the towers or to an apartment in the backyard. And they said this really isn't living independently in the community. And so we worked with some of our families and transitioned some of the adults who graduated. Their families ended up buying condos in Hamden. And we probably had 5, maybe 7 adults who purchased condos in New Haven. Um, and over the years, I'd say within 5 years, maybe 7, all of those adults moved back to the community. And now we will just say proudly to DDS that, as with anyone, you or I, we want to live with our family. And for us to live with our family, we're going to congregate in the same buildings, in the same neighborhood, so that we can be with one another. So we are heavily immersed in the one block, definitely the one block perimeter between Whaley, Harrison, Fountain, and Emerson. But we have served some adults through a pilot program with DDS who live in New Haven County, but away from our campus.
And I would say too, Sunny, that part of the reason they probably wanted to come back is we love the accessibility that the Westville community offers, which is what a lot of adults choose, right? Like they want to live in walking or easy commuting distance of places to go out to eat and places to shop and get their hair done. And
Mhm.
as you said, live close to
Or
your
just
friends. So yeah.
Yeah, or if they have downtime, right? Everybody likes
Yep.
to come back to the hub. If you don't have
Yep.
anything to do, you can always come back to campus and hang out. Something is
Hmm.
always going on there,
Hmm.
and it's naturally supporting. So,
Yep. And I'm always amazed. I'm going to share your stat here down at the bottom about how students go from living in this really intensive 2 year curriculum-based program that is Reach, where they've got 24/7 oversight, a lot of small group and one-to-one staffing. And then once they've moved out into the community, kind of gotten to their settling pace or space, on average are getting just about 3 hours a week of one-to-one supports. I mean, that's truly a testament to how much they learn and grow and develop, during their time at Chapel Haven. So I always think that's really impressive.
Yeah, definitely.
So, talk us through, Sunny, just a little bit of the components that are included if somebody's getting services through the supported living program.
Yeah, so we don't just dream them up on our own, the curriculum and the expectations for independence that the teachers and staff in Reach work through, they generate some really fabulous reports that share with, the supported living staff and families strengths and weaknesses, areas of focus, and it's from those reports that we can begin to generate goals or at least areas where after the adult transitions to the community, we can sort of focus on, spend some time, and help the adult achieve independence in those areas. But just overall, it's almost as, anything that you can think of in your daily life, right? Whether it's the chores in your, that you need to get done in your house, grocery shopping, we need to get to doctor's appointments, making social plans and getting along with our friends. It's in the, I don't think we included a slide in for Chapel Haven's mission statement, but I always felt that it was written for supported living because it highlights the individualized supports, which I think is a beautiful thing, of course, right? Every program, every plan is individualized. There aren't two that are the same. You can't compare, my son is working on this and while my daughter is working on this, it's going to be two different plans entirely. And that's
Mhm.
great. It's difficult to talk about that, generally
Mhm.
speaking, but it is one of the, it is just a great thing. And they change, as the
Mhm.
adults become um, um, more comfortable or acclimated in the setting, in the community. Their independence naturally rises. And that's why, at first, when adults transition from Reach, they may be receiving 5 or 7 hours a week of one-to-one support. But slowly over time, that may diminish to 1 or 2 hours a week with the other part of it is there are a whole bunch of ancillary or incidental supports, not even incidental, I shouldn't say that because a big part of it is work too, right?
Mhm.
Whether working or volunteering, that structure, that robust schedule really helps make it all work. But
Yeah. And I like to kind of describe it too for families who are coming from Reach or one of the more comprehensive transition programs. It's like everything that was once bundled under that tuition-based program now becomes things that you can kind of pick and choose from and take part in, and then pay just on based what you're utilizing, rather than continuing to need that full comprehensive tuition-based program.
yeah.
So, talk to us a little bit, Sunny, about how an individual might be referred to the supported living program and what that transition from REACH to SLP can look like.
Yeah, so that 2 years goes by really, really fast,
Yeah.
right? And it's at the 12-month, after 1 year that the supported living staff first becomes acquainted with who's in reach and the teachers and maybe even the families who are looking for some information or a heads up on, what's next after graduation. But definitely by the 18-month meeting, the supported living staff, a representative from SLP, is joining the family and the teacher at the meeting. And we begin talking about what the recommendation is going to be based on their needs or maybe based on the expectations for independence. Sometimes families come in and they're like, yep, this is great. We have a recommendation for SLP, but I'm really not comfortable with a transition just yet to the community. So we start talking about all of those things. By the 21-month meeting, we have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. If we need to look at apartments or condos or find roommates, we're working on all of those little tangibles and sort of
Mhm.
checking the boxes to get, to transition adults, whether on campus to another on-campus residential program or to a new apartment in the community. And Westville was really built for Chapel Haven. I mean, there are six condo communities in the immediate vicinity. There are a couple of buildings with elevators, rentals, which meet the need of different profiles, the needs of a whole, a wider range of adults transitioning out.
Yeah.
And then by the 24-month meeting, we pretty much, we know what's going on. The support coordinator is in place. We know what their schedule is going to look like, whether they're working, volunteering, if they're going to be taking classes, maybe joining Tina for U Arts, how involved they're going to be with the rec program. So they should have at the 24-month mark a robust schedule, through the summer to get them through the summer and beyond. After the
Yeah.
24-month meeting, I'm sorry, Christy, I just keep going on and
No,
on.
that's okay. Go ahead.
And then after the 24-month meeting, we'll take a break for 90 days. And that's when, the full transition happens. We go from the REACH staff to the supported living staff. So the supported living staff, they have their list of things that we need to work on and assist the adult with the transition. And then at the 90-day mark, we talk about, what the goals were or the areas of focus were in that 21-month report and where we are now, and then compile new goals as a team, of course, with the individual chairing that meeting.
Absolutely. And I was just going to point out, Sunny, that we've kind of thrown some of our acronyms down here. So where it says Directors of SLP Supported Living Program, CA stands for career ability, because
Yes.
obviously that long-term, vocational piece is important. So they're involved at that point. And then I also just wanted to clarify that if a student is transitioning from REACH, thinking about that SLP umbrella, you would be looking at either the SAIL program, like Sunny said before, the bridge program where you would continue to live on campus for another year, or the supported living program itself where you would move off campus. So I just wanted to clarify there's not a transition to catch because catch is a starting point for older individuals that have never been a part of Chapel Haven before. So Sunny, this has kind of been, I think it's had different iterations over the years. I was going to say it's a little bit on the newer end of things about how we've been strategic in having SLP staff, including, I think, you teaching a class in the spring semester, and how that is helping the students themselves to prepare for that transition coming up.
Yeah, I think, there's always a bustle on campus. Like I don't know the ins and outs of REACH. I'm definitely not an expert on REACH, but I do know that the students in REACH do not go to community member apartments and hang out on Friday night and eat pizza.
Mhm.
I do know that they are looking forward to that. And so when it comes time to talk about the transition, the students are really interested in what it's going to look like in the community. Like, how are
Mhm.
the rules going to change or how it's going to be different? And we have a community member handbook that kind of goes through, the ins and outs of all the changes, living responsibly in the community, making safe decisions, but then other logistical stuff like, if you wake up with a bellyache at 2 o'clock in the morning, who are you going to call? How are you going to get some help? Um,
Mhm.
and I think it's always exciting. It's exciting for me to meet the students who are coming out into the community. And I think it's really exciting for the students to, as they prepare for, life as a graduate. Sometimes they'll refer to themselves as graduates. So,
Yeah.
um,
I have a friend in the REACH program, one of the students right now, who excitedly tells me many times when I see him throughout the week how he is working hard because he wants to graduate from REACH and become a community member. Like there's definitely a sense of pride in that transition.
yeah.
Yeah. So once somebody has made that transition, so you finished up your 24-month meeting, from REACH, you've moved out of the REACH building. Talk to us a little bit about how we track progress within the supported living program, which I'm going to use broadly to include Bridge as well. And how families get to participate in that?
Yeah, so support coordinators and the program managers in SLP are responsible for reporting data, right, on the goals and objectives. And everything is surrounding goals and objectives. So as a parent, you should always have knowledge of what your son or daughter, whether they're, new to the community or they've been in the community for 15 or 20 years, you should know exactly what the support coordinator is working on with your son or daughter. And it can vary. There have been, just in terms of life skills and chores, there have been many adults and families that are like, yeah, we tried to get this mopping the floor thing down for, you know, 10 years. It's not working. It's expensive to have a support coordinator come in and say, let's mop the floor. So they've just, made their own compensatory strategy and hired a cleaning service,
Hmm.
as a way to both defray cost and also improve relations, with your son or
Hmm.
daughter. So those discussions happen typically at the 1 year interval once everything has sort of settled down. But that's not necessarily dictated by Chapel Haven staff.
Hmm.
We had families that, are a little nervous coming into this. We can meet every 3 months, or 6 months. We do have adults who are funded by the state, the Department of Developmental Services, and we're able to provide the support coordinator service, right, under an individualized home support budget. Now, that's probably a separate conversation entirely, but Chapel Haven sort of follows their guidelines, and the state requires that we report progress on goals and objectives every 6 months. So, in all fairness, they set the standard, and we sort of follow that, whether adults are privately funded or funded, have funding by the state of Connecticut.
Thanks, Sunny. And I'm glad, Sunny, that you brought up the point about like the compensatory strategies because sometimes I think we lose perspective on the goals that maybe we're setting for adults for their long-term lives and what that can or should or shouldn't look like. And we fail to think about how many compensatory strategies each of us as neurotypical adults use in our daily life. I never go to the grocery store. I hate it. I do an online order and I pick it up curbside. I got tired of fussing with my husband about whose turn it was to vacuum and mop the floor, so we have a house cleaner. There's a lot that we all do that should be and is, as part of the Chapel Haven community, open to the adults that we work with so that they can choose their quality of life and how they want to engage, with the different demands that are part of being an adult out in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of that, Sunny's kind of got listed out here some of the things that adults might take advantage of that are community-based services that don't have anything to do with Chapel Haven, but then also has listed out, that menu of Chapel Haven options. Sunny, we haven't referenced the community life program yet. Do you want to just say a quick word about how that might be utilized?
Yeah, so our community life day program is just that. It's a day program option. It's housed in the Rossman residence and it functions daily from 9 to 3. And the adults who attend are looking for group volunteer experience or to maybe hone their skills so that they may graduate to a group supported employment work site or even move on up into a competitive work site. But they also do a number of volunteer civic activities, um, um, mostly, in increments in the morning or the afternoon. And I would say, a number of adults um, at Chapel Haven who have a block of time sometime during the week, they're able to look at the whole calendar of the monthly calendar of CLP offerings. And so they'll choose to go to the Beardsley Zoo to do volunteer or to the downtown evening soup kitchen. But it's a program that's housed under career ability. So it is part of our vocational offering, but very, very popular on campus.
Yeah. And also, Sunny, I know you were talking before about how hard it is to talk about what a graduate schedule might look like on a weekly basis because it is so different for everyone. But this page and kind of what we've been talking about just represents some of the options that might be plugged in. So, where you see that it says REACH CAE classes, that just stands for Continuing Adult Education Classes. So, in addition to working part-time, maybe doing a day in the community life program, they might sign up to take a few classes and then join the rec program on the weekends, and take part in some one-to-one fitness training or a small group Zumba class. So all of that gets plugged in addition to those one-to-one support hours that Sunny was describing earlier, where on average folks are getting about 3.2 hours a week. So that would be those support coordinator times where maybe they're cooking a new recipe together or they're doing their budgeting or something like that. So there's many different components that go together to build that meaningful weekly schedule.
Yeah, we should probably add that, Christy,
Yes,
the
that would be good.
SLP under, we don't, that's the one thing we didn't offer, and it's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Well, Sunny, tell us a little bit about how I hear this question a lot from families like, is somebody going to help us figure out a roommate? How will we know where to live? So, talk to us a little bit about how that matching process happens.
Yeah, so, we depend a lot on reach. Typically by the second year, reach has it sort of worked out who lives well together. And sometimes we can pair up on transitions, whether they're to bridge or the community. I think parents begin talking to one another, before that actually happens. So first, we rely on the teachers and the staff in the reach program to kind of give recommendations. But then we also have adults in the community who, for whatever reason, may or may not be looking for a roommate, right? So
Mhm.
I'd say typically, although I have to say more so recently, families have gobbled up real estate as
Mhm.
it's come available. Whereas in the
Mhm.
past, we'd sort of recommend that families, transition your adult to supported living, right? Get a feel for how it is in the community and whether or not it's a lifelong fit before investing in a condo. Um, but more so lately, in the past few years, families have purchased, real estate even before adults have graduated
Mhm.
from the REACH program. And with the turnover, it's interesting because we've been able to, we have adults living in the sale program now that used to live in condos right next door to campus. So when
Mhm.
they transitioned to sale
Mhm.
for that additional support, the families were able to get together with an attorney and transfer the property. So, and just by, being involved at Chapel Haven for so many years, we have a number of neighbors who will call, when they
Mhm.
have a property coming available, or
Mhm.
and
And
we
I think
make
I even got one of
excellent.
those recently, Sunny, where I was like, "Hey, this person said they're selling something. Do you want to check it out?"
Right? And our adults make excellent tenants. They pay their rent on time.
Yep.
They don't stay up late partying and making noise. They go to bed early. They're like perfect tenants. So popular.
Um, well, Sunny, so we talked a little bit about what the average amount of support that somebody might get during the week. I see here that the lowest amount looks like an hour a month. Is there an upper limit of how many? Oh, you've got it listed there. The highest would be 16 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we've always been able to, and I can't explain this, but I do know from the expectations for independence, right? When adults meet those expectations and transition to supported living, initially we're never recommending more than 10 hours a week in support, at the onset into the community. Um, when we start getting into hours that exceed that 10-hour sort of cap, it's mostly because DDS, the way they
Mhm.
fund programs and services, whereas Chapel Haven might say, this is just an example, we need an hour and a half to go to the grocery store, make it through the checkout, do our inventory, get rid of expired foods. That's an hour and a half of service. DDS might assign like 4 hours to that task. So
Mm.
their budgets tend to be much larger, and families will find other goals and objectives that support coordinators can do to kind of help manage some of that time, or use that time, utilize that 16 hours a week. So we do have adults with DDS funding with close to 20 hours a week in one-to-one supports.
Wow. Okay. And we are going to talk, I think, well, in the next slide or two, we're going to talk a little bit more about DDS. And I'm not ignoring the bullet point that's down there about the Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security, but Alicia did such a phenomenal job on that presentation about all of those benefits that I'm going to refer folks to go to our YouTube channel and check out her specific video where she really breaks that all down very nicely. So just letting you know too that we are continuously our progress is being monitored continuously as well. So we just in December completed our, I think would have been our eighth, we need to update the slide, consecutive
Yep.
year of 3-year accreditation. So CARF is the committee for the accreditation of rehabilitation facilities, and it's a peer review process where like directors of other similar programs to Chapel Haven will come and go through thousands of benchmarks and progress measures with us, interviewing adults and families and staff and people who refer individuals to Chapel Haven, and then help us to reflect on, where we are meeting and exceeding the expectations, and then areas where we can continue to improve. So we've been really proud of our compliance rate. Our Vice President of Compliance, Sherry Robitaille, has done a tremendous job with helping us to just be in a continual learning process and continue to grow and improve over the years.
Yeah, and I just want to add one more thing to that,
Yes,
Christy,
please
because
do.
of those, that CARF accreditation, so we met 1,111 of 1,282 standards or something that whatever
Mhm,
the breakdown was. But all of the citations, if you will, were non-discriminatory. So
mhm,
of all of our programs that serve the adults that we serve, we were 100% compliant. Where
mhm.
we received citations it wasn't in our programming or our services or the way we execute them. I think, uh, I mean, if I could share an example, like we had expired hand,
Hand sanitizer
bite,
wipe or something. Yeah.
yeah, expired ointment in a first aid kit, but not,
Yeah.
the citations weren't directly related to our programming and services, for the adults. So
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as we mentioned, Alicia, Enrico, amazing. Sunny, do you want to talk a little bit about how she's had a transition within the supported living program, right? Starting out as a support coordinator and then what from there?
Yep. Yeah. So she has a master's degree in social work, and she is like an expert in Medicare and Medicaid and navigating the DSS portal. So she, most of the adults that come to Chapel Haven, they already have SSI in place, but if they don't, she can help with that. And as adults are contemplating a transition to the community, once that address is established, post reach, like once you've left college and you don't have you have a permanent address of your own, she can apply for Medicaid. And then that gets the ball rolling for a variety of services, whether through DDS, for some programming supports, or through the Department of Social Services, Medicaid. Medicaid coverage is huge, food stamps, um, just a number of different energy assistance,
Yep.
special transportation passes. For condo owners, we can get some relief with our gas bills and our electric bills. For those who have Medicare, the Medicare premiums can be paid by the state of Connecticut. So there's a whole host of federal, state, and local benefits that Alicia is really well versed in. And um, you know, we're really lucky to be able to offer her as a resource.
Yeah, and she did a really fantastic job in her presentation of breaking down like how you have to start at the federal and then how that opens up other opportunities down the line for you. So again, highly recommend checking out her YouTube video on that. So Sunny, it sounds, I would imagine that when families first hear about their adult like moving off campus, that might sound like a little like what will happen? You know, like they've been living in the 24/7 building. How do we know that they're still going to
Yeah.
be safe? So can you talk a little bit about how we continue to oversee, safety and offer emergency support?
I think for many, many years, we did really well with the emergency on call, right? Families or adults could call into the REACH program with an emergency, and that would alert an administrator on call, and then somebody could respond. And for the most part, it worked really well. Um, but it was always an area where families were just really nervous with, adults who have seizure disorders. If they have a seizure in the middle of the night and there's an alert and they need to be tended to, or they need to receive medicine. How are we going to handle that? Um, so, finally, I feel like we finally come full circle and we've been able to acquire a third shift staff member in the supported living program. So in Rossman, we have an overnight staff who can float. So if any person, a family member, receives a call from their son or daughter at 2 o'clock in the morning, they have a bellyache or anything, we have somebody on campus at Chapel Haven that can be dispatched into the community to help them, maybe transport to the hospital with them. But that was always an area, when we looked at satisfaction surveys, families were always a little nervous about adults, especially nowadays and the climate that we live in. Sending adults to the emergency department by themselves was just, always never left anybody feeling really great. So I'm happy, that we're able to offer that, and happy to report that it's not all that often that she has to
We haven't
be
had to utilize
dispatched.
it too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, Sunny, we're getting close on our time, and I want to save just a little bit for checking in. I've seen the chat has a lot going on in there, and I'm sure Eric's answering, but just want to make sure if there's questions for us to talk about, we have time. But just give us a little sneak peek. Like, definitely we can see how the supported living program has grown and expanded over the years. What's coming up that we should be keeping our eyes and ears out for?
Yeah, so the aging committee, that's huge. Again, going back to our mission statement, we say we're going to provide lifelong supports. And that's very easy to say, but as our adults age and what comes with that can be very complicated. So
Mhm.
Karen Gardner, a general practitioner from the Philadelphia area, and Dr. John Bilazikian are chairing our aging committee. So we can take a look at that. And I'm not going to give the name out, but we will probably have our own clinician that will come on campus and see our adults in some aspect. Whether it comes to psychiatric care or prescriptions, specific prescriptions. Some doctors are not prescribing the meds that our adults need, and they're not getting the time that they need in those appointments. So we found a fellow, a doctor, who has an interest in working with adults with differing
Amazing.
abilities. So that's really exciting.
Yep.
We're reigniting the SAFE program, which is securing advocacy for everyone. So we're finding, again, with that lifelong support, what does that really mean at the end of days, right? Are we helping families secure the legal advice or the documents that they need so that supports at Chapel Haven can remain in place and they can truly live independently in this community for as long as they wish? The life plans, taking a comprehensive look across the organization um, at, that plan. I think, when we get into the meetings with families, we do talk specifically about goals and objectives and how we're spending our time. But as the adults age and new um, new things, the transitions, whether an adult, one of the things that we're seeing more now is how adults have responded or are responding, excuse me, to the death of their parents. Like that was
Mhm.
something that 5 years ago we hadn't like we didn't pay it any attention. Now
Mhm.
we realize as they're seeing their parents age and then having passed some of them, like there's a whole lot of work that we need to do there.
Mhm.
So getting those things in order in a, and creating a systematic approach to that so that we're not always playing catch up, so that we can
Mhm.
get ourselves out ahead of that. As our oldest adults are now, 70, 71, 72, 73 years old. Um, and then, of course, it's always, if any of you have talked to Mike Stores, I'm sure he's probably mentioned the staff investment. Traditionally, this area of work, we're not millionaires, but we want to be able to pay $1 million to have that type of staff working with us.
Mhm.
And, for the most part, I can say with absolute certainty, it's our culture and the team that we have that sells it for great staff. But we're always looking, to have the credentials there as well. We need cognitive behavioral therapists, we need speech language pathologists,
Mhm.
we need social workers. So through the staff investment, a $10 million pledge, we've been able to, increase the salaries for staff 2 years in a row now. So that's been great.
And expend their benefits as well and retirement opportunities.
Yes, and yes, right. We had a 10-year pause to employee contributions in 403Bs, 10 years.
Mhm.
So that was recently. Yeah, Christy, that was great too. And then with our strategic plan, like I love to talk about the SAIL program, right? And so your son or daughter transitions from REACH and then moves to the SAIL program. But guess what? SAIL is full at 21 residents. So with the strategic
41.
plan, yeah, comes a building committee and campus expansion. So that's something, that probably is leaving Mike a little sleepless at night, but we have a plan to expand, excuse me, residential housing on campus, which is great.
Thank you, Sunny. That was a both whirlwind and comprehensive overview of the supported living program, and we're so appreciative of everything that you've shared. I'm going to stop sharing and then check in with Eric. Eric, are there any outstanding questions that we should chat through, or have you been able to address everything?
I think I was able to address everything. I'm answering a question now from a current
Okay.
reach parent, but I'll just say it out loud. Margot, I uh, Sunny, she's in charge of three different departments, and she was, working on developing some things, and she wanted to utilize my skill set in the SAIL program. However, with regard to transitions coming out of Reach, I'm still involved. I'm still a part of everyone's community, and so I'm not really. I'm still involved in things, and I'll fade support. But I'll see your son around campus and always say hi. So I don't want you to worry that I'm jumping ship on all those things. I want to transfer my knowledge of these meetings and things back to Sunny, and then Sunny is going to evaluate a director position for over there.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Just because I can see her on my screen, I also want to give a shout out and encourage any families that are here that are already parents of community members or maybe current Reach families that are getting ready to. Shelly Hartz from the Chapel Haven Family Association is on here, and that is a great resource to support you during the transition or if you're new to the supported living program. Shelly and then co-chair Mary Doherty both have young adults who've been in the graduate community for many years now. And Shelly, anything you want to say about connecting or supporting?
I'm just now typing. I'll put my number in and my email.
Fantastic.
Parents, please don't hesitate to email if you have any questions. Daniel hasn't been here as long as Sunny, but he's been here, been a part of Chapel Haven for 23 years, and so are we. So feel free to ask questions that you might want to ask another parent.
Yep.
And if I don't know the answer, I would certainly reach out to Christy or to Sunny. And I just want to say thank you to both of you,
Yeah.
Sunny and Christy, and you too, Eric, for the great job you do for all of our kids, but from my heart, certainly my son. So thank you.
Oh,
Thank you,
thank you so
Shelley.
much, Shelley. And also, I'll give a plug. Chapa's been doing some fantastic events throughout the year. The Bowl-a-thon is a long-standing tradition, and then we've added a couple of new things to the roster. We just had Fun Fest, and then Afternoon of Awesome will be coming up in August 27th, I think it is. And those are open for everybody. That's really an opportunity for us to pull the whole community together and just have some fun. We're also going to be doing that during our expanded family weekend coming up May 2nd and 3rd. There's going to be a walkathon on Saturday, May 2nd. Prior to the start of the walkathon, Sunny and Mike Stores are going to be doing some info sessions in the morning. Sunny's going to delve into benefits. Mike's going to talk strategic planning. And then on Sunday, we'll have our traditional, family brunch going on. So if you don't know about those yet and you want to be a part of that, you definitely get in touch with us and let us know, and we'll get you signed up. All right.
A lot to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so last call for any questions. Otherwise, I do want to let you know we've recorded this. It's going to get posted on YouTube. We'll also save a PDF of the slides so that you can have those for reference. And we'll make sure if you were registered for that, we'll send that out to you in the next couple of days as well. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sunny and Eric, for all the information that you shared tonight. Thank you so much to everyone who attended. And stay tuned next month in May. It'll be clinical services and college supports with Gina Apicella from our ASAP program.
Christy, is there anything, do you have the date of our next parents' meeting where we'll be talking about wellness or whatever, or just for parents to look out for that email?
Yes, that was in the newsletter, Shelley, and I want to say it's April 22nd is your
Yes,
chapel session, but I could be wrong. But check the
yes.
Chapel Haven newsletter that went out this week. It's definitely there.
But please
Christy,
join us. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a
Okay.
question, Christy.
Sure.
Does Catch is Catch able to do Special Olympics too?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody does Special Olympics.
Yep. All
'Cause
right, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Natalie, did I cut you off?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I can't wait to join Catch.
Awesome. Well, we're excited that you are looking forward to that, and we look forward to being in touch with you.
All right.
All right, everybody.
Natalie.
Have
Thank
a
you,
wonderful
everybody.
evening. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Christy.